Talk about how to add a dataset to the LTR dataset package. After cloning the package, you should be in this situation, seeing all the files that are in the package, and also being in this R project that create the links between your project and the GitHub repository. You should also create your own branch to work in your kind of environment and not impact what the others are doing on the package, and it will also help us to create pull requests and ask for code review before merging the new code. So here I'm on my screencast branch. I'm looking all good. So we will be focusing on 3 folders to add a dataset. The data row folder, where we're gonna write the script to create the sample from the raw dataset. The R folder, where we will add the description and information metadata about the dataset, and then the vignette folder, where we'll be adding the example that we will be showcasing using this dataset. So let's dive in. If I go in the data row, you can see I already have some dataset. I'm just gonna add one. Let me start a new file. Our script in this case, it's not a markdown, and let me open one of them. So those script have a very specific structure and tagging as well, and the reason you might remember is because we want this chunk of code being appended at the end of the example. So people can download the raw dataset as well. So in my new case, I'm going to work for the MCR dataset, which is a Coral dataset. So I'm just going to copy paste it from somewhere else, so to save some time. But it will end up like that. Again, there is these different tags that are specific, but in this case, we download this dataset with MetaJam. Then we select a few or remove some of the columns in this dataset, do some fixes in the Coral Genius file where there are some question marks instead of NA, and we use the janitor package to clean the names. And then we do a little bit more filtering and correction for different datasets. And your code should always end up, so this part should change from dataset to dataset, but this part highlighted here will be always the same, which is the one that saved the dataset into the package, into the data folder of the package. So I'm just gonna source this code to run it. Hopefully it's gonna work. It's gonna take some time just to re-download the dataset with MetaJam. But what I can do while it's doing that, I can go into this data folder and show you it's just a warning, and show you that if I refresh here, I should end up with the MCR dataset being used. So I can try that, and yes, I can see now I have the MCR Coral.rdir file, which match the file name that I'm using. So it means it worked. So I would, in this case, save. I'm going just for a second here back into the data row folder. I'm going to save this script. It does what I want. I'm going to go in the right folder. So I want to be in the data row. So note that there is a specific way we are writing the file name. So you should try to match that. And the pattern here is MCR, because it's the name, the 3 letter of the LTR site. And then what this dataset is about, it's about Coral, and then the underscore data, which is just to let us know that that's the script that creates the data. And you can really just match what is already in there. And then I'm going to save it. You can see that now my Git ban is doing some showing here because I've made some modification. So there is the dataset that exists now. I can add it in this commit, and there is now this script that I never tracked. And so I'm gonna add it as a single commit, and I can do creating mcr choral data sample. Okay, so now I've created this data set. The one more step I need to do is before moving to the example is to add some description about the data set, some metadata. So here the same way you can see, let me close those guys here. You can see we have already some example. I'm gonna take this one. And really also it's it's a specific syntax that will help us to describe the data sets. And we can talk about it a little bit more outside this video, but that's the idea of what we want to do, and mostly is describing each of the columns that are in the data set with some specific information, and then citing the citation about the data set that we are using. And we can add some quick information about it at the beginning. So really that's the main structure. As previously, I'm gonna just copy paste it from something I've prepared to save us time. So the same ways, it's although it's not really a script, it's still a R script file. So you can create a new script and then start entering your information. Now in my case, that would be what the data set looks like. And I can save that. And as previously, there is the same idea. It's going to be MCR for the file name convention, the LTR site, then what it's about. So in this case, it's still Choral, and in this case, it's doc for documentation. And we're going to save that. And as previously, now I have this information that comes in my Git pan. I can do a commit about it. Oops. And my main commit is going to be adding metadata for MC Choral. Commit that. Okay, so we've already done 2 of 3 files. The last but not least one that is left is the vignette. So in this case, vignettes are R Markdown, just for you to remember. Close those guys, so it's a bit clearer here. So in this case, it's a special vignette, special Markdown signaling here in the header that it's a vignette, and that's where you're going to display the example that you are working with. There is also somewhat of a template in this data, in these vignettes. Which is going to be, you load your packages that you will need for the vignettes, explaining a little bit what the data is about and doing some analysis. And then there will be the citation part that is based as well on the citation of the data set. And then there will be this kind of weird syntax here, which is what I was talking about previously, is taking the example of the code of the sample and appending it at the end of the R Markdown, so people can download the data and see how we created the data sample from the data set, and thus making this package reproducible for others. So same as before, I'm just gonna create a new, this time R Markdown. Doesn't matter for now. I'll just say okay. And then I'm gonna copy paste from something I've prepared, but in your case you will be spending a lot of time on this vignette. Yeah, it's just an example. Just gonna do all of that and paste from my vignette. So again, you should have this specific header here, some information about it, an overview that gives some context about the data, why we are using them and what they are all about, then the packages, and then there will be some of the analysis I'm doing here. And again, very needed is the citation. So every Markdown should have a citation at the end, and then also appending how we did create the data sample. So I'm going to save this Markdown, And well, I'm already in the vignette, that's perfect. And as for the others, you know, there's still this naming convention. So MCR is my site, and it's about coral. And this time we just say it's a vignette because it is. And I'm gonna save that. And the same as before, I can do commit and then vignette. MCR vignette. Okay, so I've added all the parts that I need. That's really those 3 files, although first one is created from the first script. So we should have the script that create the sample, the file, the sample save as the RDF file in the data folder, having the metadata description of the dataset in the R folder as the R script, and having in the vignette folder R markdown, that is the vignette explaining the example we want to showcase with this specific dataset. So that's where I am currently. What I could do with now to do some checking before sending the code back is I could run install and restart. And what it's going to do is going to try to recompile the R package with the new dataset. So now we can see I should have my MCR coral dataset that is available to me, which is a good sign. So there was no error. The dataset was successful, or at least the data sample was successfully added to the package. So that's great. One last thing you could run is the DevTools document. Oh, I forgot the S. And what it's going to do is going to create all the documentation that you need. And what it would mean is that then you can rebuild the package, and now you will have also the information about the dataset. That's the same DevTool build, similar to what happened when I click install and restart here on the build. Okay, so now I should have all the documentation that is in place. And I should be good to go to, it's always good to check if there was any change during the documentation building. And then I should be able to push all of that to GitHub and start a pull request to merge my branch into the master. Again, when you do a pull request, try to assign a team member as a reviewer so they can look at the code and learn from it and give you feedback. And then you can try to merge it to the master branch, and it should be pretty smooth at this point. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. An extra bonus is always good if you want to know more about the package and where things are at, is this check. Running the DevTool check here, you can see it always give you the command. It's a bit more in-depth than just building the package. It's gonna check if the description is correct, if all the documentation is up to date, and things like that. So before pushing back to GitHub and merging your branch, it's always a good things to run to make sure that everything is up to date. And you will see you will have some notes, some warnings. When you submit to CRAN, you need to deal with all of that, but we can also further discuss. As long as you don't have errors, I would say that's still good to push it. Okay, that's it.